Jesus, boys, girls, in-betweeners, how you doing? Red Gamer here, and we're back with a very quick and dirty day 2 tutorial guide intro for Akira. So, as I just mentioned, this is only day 2. There's probably going to be some tech that gets found for this character further down the line if you're watching this later on YouTube. This is just really here to give you a very quick primer on how this character works, some advantages, some disadvantages, some things I've found, things like that. I don't want to go too long, so I'm not going to waffle. We're just going to dive right in. So, Akira is basically, from what I've seen so far, like a very almost gorilla-ish kind of character. She's a lot like Urian / Seth, in the sense that she really just wants to get in and do her thing. That seems to be the case. But she can, however, be also used in the spacing game kind of way as well, and we'll go over that as things progress. With this guide, I'm hoping that you have a basic understanding of how Street Fighter works in terms of frame data, in terms of when moves are safe or unsafe. If you don't know what frame data is, just take my word for it when I say something is safe or unsafe. If it's safe, it means you can't be punished. If it's unsafe, it means you definitely can be. Alright, that said, let's talk about her basic moves. So at the moment, we got her on, we got Juri on not guarding all, so we just have guard off at the moment. So just look at the frame data. Jabs are +2. Staying leg kicks -2, crouching jab +2, crouching leg kick is +1. So this is a good harassment tool. Given how Akira has a good walk speed, like this is quite, even backwards, her walk speed is quite good. This will allow you to really look at harassing people with some of these lights and just going for pressure, kind of ideally. So that's something to keep in mind with these. Range is actually fairly reasonable for light moves as well. I like it, especially the crouching light. That's not what I wanted. We'll get to that later. So, lights are overall pretty good. Now, mediums are where the real butter zone is at, because standing medium punch, plus. Crouching medium punch, plus. So these are your real party stars when it comes to damage. Again, we'll get to that a little bit later though. Standing medium kick. This whiffs on crouching, which is something important to note, making it not a good neutral tool. So yeah, you have to be quite close, otherwise it will just whiff. Akira does have issues with things whiffing, which again we'll get into a little bit later, but right now this is not the best neutral tool. Instead, what the best neutral tool actually is, if you're actually going from a distance, is stand HK. But again, we'll get to that in 1 second. Crouching medium kick. Surprise, it doesn't have quite as good of a range as it would indicate, but still a pretty solid range on crouching medium kick as well. So there's a lot to like about her lights and her mediums. Now, getting into heavies, like we were just talking about, standing HK, since we're just mentioning it, God tier. Fucking unbelievable. It is -6. That is one thing to keep in mind. It is very minus. But this thing has so much range, it's sickening. Like, look how far away I'm hitting Juri. It is unbelievable. So this goes well beyond any of like the long range stand heavy kicks that I've seen. It's definitely further range than Juri's, it's further range than Ed's. It might even be further range than Sagat's, we'd have to check. It's further range than Karin's, it's nuts. This thing. As long as you space it correctly, this thing is just an atrocious spacing tool that should be abused incredibly heavily. It also comes out quite quickly as well. So it's really just, I love this button. It also causes crush counter, which is something important to note. However, the crush counter you can't really do anything with. The crush counter is mostly for corner carry. So we have counter on right now. So yeah, it throws them very far back. There's really nothing you can do with that. So it is cancelable, and then again, we'll talk about that later. I'm saying that a lot. Don't make a meme out of it in the comments, please. There's just a lot to get through, and I want to try and do it quickly because I don't want this video to go forever. So you can get pressure afterwards, though. You do get to have Oki afterwards. So it's still quite good in that regard as well. So again, as long as you're spacing this properly, incredibly good button. Because again, like, even Ryu, with his 3-frame normal, cannot punish this if you space it properly. It's ridiculous. Alright, that said, talking about other heavy buttons. Let's talk about heavy punches. Stand fierce, -6. It is cancelable, But this is something you really want to use in combos. It's not going to be a poking tool. Speaking of poking tools, we turn counter back on. Her forward HP is a command normal. That does cause crush counter and causes crumple state. Which is a good or a bad thing depending on where you come from. On that one, because it makes some of the combos harder to do, but you have more time to do them. But this is also -6. Sorry, -5, take that back. It can be spaced, but it's still, even when it's spaced, you are a little bit at risk of being punished for it, so yeah, I think it's better as a move that's used to just throw out neutral to see if you catch anything, because it does move Akira forward. So I think it's good for just hoping to catch a button that's being stuck out. I wouldn't recommend trying to actually pressure people with this. Alright, crouching fierce punch. -7. It's an anti-air. You can use it in combos for sure, but it's also her go-to normal anti-air. This anti-airs as well, actually. I forgot to mention that. This and this are her 2 normal anti-airs. I haven't tested whether she can anti-air jab, but I don't know why you would want to, even if she can. So these are the 2 anti-air normals. I always tend to prefer heavies a little bit more, but if you like your mediums, then go for it. You cannot use... It looks like you might be able to, but you cannot use this for a Chun-Li side switch. If there is a way to do it, I haven't found it. So it'll just pop them out of the air, you dash up afterwards, and I cannot get a cross under from that. So if you can, more power to you, but I tried it for a while and couldn't get it. Alright, that said, let's talk about sweep. Sweep is exactly what you'd expect. It's -14, which is universal, so that's fine. Don't sweep, kids. Just don't do it, it's not worth it. Especially when Akira has a lot of better moves that go low, which we'll get into in a moment. I believe that's... Oh, and also, as far as the last command normal goes, we have her overhead. Her overhead is extremely far-reaching again. I would suspect this goes further than Jury's overhead, which is also a fairly long-reaching overhead. It's -7 on block, which is universal for overheads. That's fine. It does have the unique distinction, though, that you can do a single hit afterwards. So if you actually see this connect, and you can connect off the first or second hit, it does not have to be one or the other. You can go into a heavy kick afterwards. Now the heavy kick, as you just saw, is -23. So for the love of God, if the first 2 hits do not connect, please do not follow up with the last one. But if they're not blocking, it's a nice little damage extension for an overhead. And gives you a knockdown as well. And also a fair bit of corner carry. So for an overhead, you actually get corner carry, which is interesting. A lot of Akira's game plan seems to be very much about getting them to the corner. She has so many moves that push them far away. So I think that's very intentional by the designers. So, yeah, overhead is fine. If you also if you like a lot like Jury's overhead, even though overheads are universally -7, if you space this at max range, it's going to be reasonably difficult to punish. Like, if we block all this... Wrong button. If we block all this... From this range, it's going to be quite tricky to punish that for people. Obviously, it's going to vary character to character, but it's not going to be like an easy punish universally for every character. They're going to have to really think about, okay, what do I have that's less than 7 frames that reaches that far? So, again, it really comes down to, with this character, you have to space stuff. She has good stuff, in some cases really good stuff, in terms of normals, but they have to be spaced. So always, always, always keep that in mind. Alright, let's talk about her target combos. So she has 2 of them on the ground. One of them is light punch to medium punch, which as you can see there is -6. You have to do this very quickly. If you don't do it very quickly, it will just come out as 1, 2, like that. And although it looks the same, one of them combos and one of them doesn't, and one of them is plus on block and one of them is not. So if we do the non-plus version, or sorry, the plus version I should say, you do it too slow. I just realized that comboed. Why would you want to do the target combo? I don't know. You can link it normally. How about that? We're learning as we go, kids. So you can link it normally, which really makes the target combo redundant in my opinion. That's the regular version of it. If you go for the target combo version, you're actually you can see how you're -1 there, instead of being before, you're +4 on hits. So now that I've done this and realized this, there's even less reason to this target combo. I don't know why. You can set it up so you can do jab, jab into target combo. Like that. But you have to really confirm off the first hit so you can go straight into the second and third. Obviously it is cancelable from there, but unless you're really, really solid with your confirms, I don't know why you would do this, especially when they link normally, which we've just discovered. So, fun facts. Seems like a fairly worthless target combo to me. That said, someone in the comments will prove me wrong. Fine, whatever. Moving on. Herald Tag Combo is her wreckers, basically, where you do stand fierce, then into forward fierce. This does not seem particularly good to me because, as I mentioned before, if you guard the first hit, you're already at -6, and you do not want to go to the follow-up because you'll be even more minus. -16. So that's something you really don't want to throw at haphazardly on block. Now, there is a caveat to that, which is the last hit of it is cancelable. Or actually, both hits are cancelable. So you can go, and a V-trigger and make it safe. So if you really want it for a V-trigger activation, you certainly can do that. But that's really, to my mind, the only time you're going to be using it. I don't think it's really that useful in combos either. It's okay. It's okay. It really depends on how much you like it as a setup tool. But it's, hey, look, it's better than another one. So, yeah. Laughs all around. Applause from the crowd. Alright, that squares off at least a majority of all her normals. Let's talk about her specials. Her specials are interesting in the sense that for a pressure character, she doesn't really get to spend meter to make things plus. Which is something which you would kind of expect, but she does not get that. So her fireballs, which have no range on them normally, -3, -2, and if you do the heavy version, it's the sole exception to the rule, which you get +1. But it has quite a bit of startup to it. So something to keep in mind there. The heavy version is the only one which is plus, but it is the one that gets the most plus frames out of any of them. It doesn't, even EX is not actually plus, it's -2. So keep that in mind. I think it's good as a pressure tool. I don't think it's necessarily good as a combo tool from what I've seen yet. I will put the caveat of yet on there because someone again will probably prove me wrong. You can do it airborne. It will alter her jump trajectory because it will slow her in the air. You can't do anything afterwards, so don't try to throw that up and press a button afterwards. I don't think it's really that good because if they block it on jump in, she's already on guard all, so it doesn't matter. We're at -5 on landing. Light version I think is the same. Okay, -94 doesn't sound right. Try it again. Nope, -94. Okay. That's really good reason not to ever do that. So, don't really use the normal version for jump-ins. It's not an Akuma tool. It doesn't make you safe on landing kind of thing. Now, there is a caveat to that as well, which will be when we give her V skill. But I don't want to do that just yet. Actually, no, screw it. We will do it just now, just to show you the difference. The V skill charges up a fireball. It gives it different properties. It doesn't really give it hugely different properties on the ground, in terms of, as you can see, plus frames aren't really getting any better here. They're all the same, it's still +1. However, that does change in the air. If we charge this in and use it in the air, suddenly we're plus on landing, we're +6, which is obviously really where you want to be. Now, the interesting thing about that is that you have to use it when she's high in the air. The lower to the ground you use it, the less plus frames she gets. It's kind of like a dive kick. In the sense that dive kick, although the dive kicks are actually the opposite, because dive kicks are bad when they're high. This is good when it's high. Use this at kind of the apex of the jump, and you'll be fine. You'll be +4, +7 kind of territory. If you use it low, now you're -3. So you basically want to use this to screw up people's anti-airs if they don't have a DP option, and mess with their timing and get a free combo. Because +7, I mean, it's very plus on hit. We're +8 on hit there, so we can go for whatever we want afterwards. So that's a combo starter if people are giving you trouble with anti-airs. That's fine. Just be aware, obviously, if people have DPs, that's not going to really work. And like I said, use it high, not low. Alright. That's the fireball. Let's talk about her elbow. Back on block. Elbow is -4 universally on the normal versions. Light, medium, heavy. They're all -4. It's not a bad get-in tool, but it's going to be matchup dependent. Because characters like Ryu will punish this all day long. Any character with a solid 3-frame normal will punish this quite easily. Even with a 4-frame, obviously, it still can be punished. Characters like Abigail, who don't have a 3 or a 4-frame, you're obviously safe to do this to your heart's content, although you might get grabbed. So something to be aware of there. It's something you just kind of want to throw out occasionally just to keep them on guard, effectively. I don't think it's that great a tool. It can be used in combos. There are combos that do use it, but they're limited to the light and the EX versions from what I've been able to find. Again, could be wrong. Overall, not a bad special, kind of just, but it's not something you want to use repeatedly. Also, you can obviously be stuffed from it. You can obviously just walk into someone's fist. So just be careful about how you throw this out and judge accordingly whether they actually punish you for it or not. It's probably the best thing to mention. Alright, let's talk about her Tatsu, or her kicks. Now, this is interesting because all her kicks require an additional follow-up. So we have the light, we have the medium, and we have the heavy version. Light version has the interesting property to it that it is fireball invincible except for her feet. So everywhere from her feet upwards is fireball invincible on this. That said, you're going to have a real hard time trying to punish anyone who's using fireballs with this. You might be able to catch a Ryu as he's throwing a fireball with this, but it's going to be very rough. I would not recommend using it as a fireball punch, especially when you have Stan HK as a deterrent. Because once you're in this range, any fireball user will have to be very aware of the fact that at any point you can just step forward and wallop them. Straight into a crush counter knockdown. So, with this on deck, I don't feel like this is a very good fireball deterrent. That said, it can be comboed into any of the other versions of the kick. So the interesting property of this is that it can go into the low version of itself by tapping it again. It obviously gets more minus as you do that. It can go into the medium version, or it can go into the high version. Each time you do it, you get a different result. And that goes for the other versions as well. The medium version can go into the low version, the medium version can go into the high version, and so on and so forth. The heavy version can do the same. What's interesting about this is, aside from the fact that the heavy version is the only one that's actually safe on block, you can, again, kind of space the low one to be relatively questionably safe. Again, very matchup specific, depending on whether the opponent can punish at that range or not. Wouldn't try throwing that out too often. Heavy version's a lot better. You can obviously finish it with the heavy version. That said, crouching becomes an issue again on the heavy version. Like that. So you really want them to be standing, otherwise you can just eat a flat punish for whiffing. Alright, that said, the heavy version does have the best utility out of all of them that I've found, because it will pop them up into potential for combos. If you land the heavy into itself, you can combo into elbow, you can combo into DP. Ooh, EXDP, sorry. Oh, okay, not the EXDP, I'm thinking of a different combo, never mind me. Second day jitters. Just go with the elbow. Alright, there you go. So, it does have that, also can go into super. So it's a decent setup for super if you can get the heavy one to land. Not a bad special move, just you need to be very aware of whether they're crouching or not when you use it. Now that said, talking about her DP. Her DP is very interesting in that when DPs were changed in Season 2, they were changed so that light versions had throw invincibility, medium versions had jump in invincibility, and heavy versions had fireball invincibility. Her DP retains all those properties, but in addition to that, each version of it is still anti-air invincible. So it doesn't matter which version of this DP you use, they're all viable anti-airs. The only difference between them is that each version does a little bit more damage. So the light version does 112, the medium version does 124, heavy version does 136. And light version doesn't carry you very far, medium version carries a little bit further, heavy version carries you a bit further again. So just keep in mind that, and you can use them accordingly. But they're all viable anti-airs, which is quite nice. I don't know why they gave that to her, but they did. So, that's all of that for her special moves. We've already seen the super. It's a decent super. It can be comboed into. I don't know all the combo setups for it yet. I've shown you one. There's probably more. I know there's more. But I'm not going to go through all of those because this isn't a combo video. It's just a primer. So, that's it for that. We can talk about the V system. We already talked about her V skill 1. Let's go ahead and look at her V skill 2. V skill 2 is where we start playing Marvel vs. Capcom. It throws them straight into the air and you can jump up afterwards. And go for a combo. Now, the launcher itself, as you would expect and be thankful for, is -1 block, -8, so it is punishable. You have to combo into the launcher. I believe you can do it from the first 2 hits of the Tag Combo that we were talking about earlier. So you can do launcher. You do get a shorter launcher though, which is interesting. You get less follow-up potential there when you do it that way, but it still works. So this is going to be the launcher I think that a lot of people, the V skill rather, I think a lot of people will wind up using because the fireball one isn't that great. I did forget to talk about the X versions of the specials, so I'll come back around to that at the end of it. I'll just continue this for the moment. Beyond that, basically there's an invisible combo counter when you're doing this, so you can only get a certain number of hits before they'll just get popped out of it, basically, which is kind of standard for air combos in any game. That said, like a really simple combo you can do is so get this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's just light punch, medium punch, heavy punch, then forward heavy kick to knock them back down. 250 points, 8 points flat. Not bad damage for just a simple V skill. You can go for swaggier combos than that for sure. I'm sure people will be posting combo videos as we speak. We're not going into that right now. If you want to look at those, feel free to go look at those. Just be aware that, like, obviously once they're in there, there's nothing they can do about what you're doing to them in the air. You can try to get as much damage as humanly possible. So it's definitely the better V skill in my opinion. Alright, let's talk about V triggers. V trigger 1. Brings down Daigo. Which will just confuse the hell out of everyone from now on, because we'll never know if we're talking about Daigo the character or Daigo the player. This is a fairly simple V skill, it's only 2 bars. I like it as the beginner's V skill, and it's the one I'm using at the moment just while I get better at this character. And it has decent lockdown potential, because Daigo is a lot like Nadeshiko from Armika, in the sense that once Akira summons Daigo, he can't be dispelled. You cannot V-skill out, V-reverse out of it, you can't hit her out of it, you can't do anything. Daigo is going to go through this full animation, regardless of what you do, and you just have to suck eggs while he's doing it. So, that being the case, there is a gap between the strike and the burst. That's fine if it hits, but if it's blocked, they can actually just walk backwards out of that while guarding. So what you need to do is try to lock them down between those 2 hits so that you'll actually be able to get your lockdown and get your damage. So while this isn't a combo video, the easiest setup I've found for it on hits is you want to activate off of forward HP, which is a crush counter, so even if it crush counters, you're still going to get the full combo anyway, but you will get slightly less damage because of crush counter scaling. So you'll get this, crouching PS punch, back up. Ooh, just missed it. We'll try one more time. So you get forward HP, you summon Daigo, crouching fierce punch, backdash, jump in heavy kick, and then heavy DP. That will get you, depending, the damage does fluctuate a little bit. It depends on the timing of the execution that you use, as well as the spacing of how far away your attacks have pushed them from Daigo when his burst goes off. But you'll get anywhere from between around 275 to 302 damage on that. And that's just a simple, meterless, 300 point damage combo for a 2-bar V-trigger, which I think is pretty damn solid. Again, people will probably post combo videos and whatnot, but 300 damage, like if you're trying to get more than 300 damage off a single V-trigger, meterless, you're being fairly unreasonable in my opinion. I think that's pretty solid damage. V-trigger 2. This is the much trickier V-trigger to use because it will put, my bad, that's V-skill, not V-trigger. It will put Akira in a stance where you cannot move from. And once you're in that stance, you have 4 different options available to you. One of them is to mash punch. That is ideally what you want to do when you have confirmed off activation and just want to go straight damage. That's your damage option off of activation, I would say. If you want to go for a frame trap, you can do kick, punch, kick. So kick, punch, kick. Sorry, my bad. Let's try again. Kick, punch, kick. Gives you a big launcher. You can get super off that as well, I do believe. That's your frame trap, because the first part of that string, if we put Jury back on block, is +2. So if you did nothing else, that's +2. So if they try to press a button between that move and the next one, they'll get popped. That said, because this is such a linear structure for her activation, once people become aware that the kicks off activation are plus, you can guarantee that no one is going to press a button after kicks. They're just going to wait. So you're either going to have to choose between guessing that they're going to press a button, which, like I said, no one's going to do that, or you can just take the free pressure and go into a throw, go into a block string, whatever, and then look for another opportunity to cancel. Now you can still even after activation, you can still cancel off of moves. So it does have utility in that sense. But this is a lot like Jury's Feng Shui engine, where you have to really decide how you want to spend this meter in terms of pressure. So I don't know it well enough yet to say whether it's good or bad. It's because it's kind of strange. Like, this is the second V-trigger, which is similar to Jury's Feng Shui engine. The first one was Zeku's V-trigger, which I would say is, although I don't play Zeku, it doesn't seem nearly as good to me. I don't know whether this is good or worse, but it's certainly going to take some getting used to. So just be aware of that. That's an issue. Now, there's 2 other things that you can do. You can press just back and kick. Obviously, that's minus, as we just saw. Minus 34, so you really don't want to throw that out. But again, if you confirm, or if you're just absolutely positive they're about to press a button, you can press back and kick and get a free combo. I'm not pressing anything for this. She just does that. So 1 button will get you 186 damage. Not really great damage, considering that the punch version does 209, but you might be able to find some use for it. It does work as an anti-air, I do believe. But you have to already be in stance from that jumping. I tried it out before. If you try to go into stance, then you use the kick, it's just too slow. So it's, again, it's a utility thing. It depends on how you can use it, what kind of mileage you can get out of it. And the last thing you can do is you can just cancel out of it by holding down. You just don't press a button at all, and you just hold down and you cancel out of it straight away. That's the only way to be plus on activation if they block as well. If they block this, and you just do a activation cancel, so you do kick into activation, you're at minus 121. But if you do it and then crouch, that's -2, but if you go into the activation itself, we're +6. So there's 4 options that you have off that. So it has a lot of utility, I just haven't had enough time to explore it to really decide how good or bad it is. So that's it for that. Last thing we'll talk about is that I did skip the EXs, so we'll go over that. I'll take GRF Guard again. Let's just reset the battle while we're at it. Alright, EXs for her Fireball. Fireball's not great, it just gives you a knockdown. Not what I wanted, I don't know how I got kicked there. On block, as I said before, it's -2. So it's not terrible, it's something you can kind of throw out very quickly if you're just trying to finish off a round or something like that. Definitely not a bad move, it's just I question whether it's worth the meter. That said, if we are in V-Skill 1, and we charge it up first, and do the X version, and don't have her guarding, you do get a wall bounce. So you get a follow-up of that, which is nice. So, if you're going to use EX, V-Skill 1 is the better damage option. But again, I'm still, the jury's still out on V-Skill 1 and how useful that is compared to V-Skill 2. We'll talk about a DP. Fully invincible, which is what you'd hope for from a DP if you're spinning bar. Does the most damage at 158. That's about it. It's an invincible DP. It behaves almost identically to every other DP there is out there. So, you know what you're getting. It's crush counterable, obviously on landing, things like that, so just beware when you do that, but it is her go-to invincible reversal option. EX Elbow is the only version of it which is safe on block, which is -2. Definitely not it's basically, at this point, it's Urian's Cherry Tackle. Like, you know, like the really irritating thing when Urian's like just walking around and then suddenly he just comes in and mollywops you? Same thing. It covers about half the screen. It's safe on block. It causes good damage of knockdown on hit. There's not much else to say about that. You can use it in combos. It's definitely not a bad EX if you're just looking to throw out a bar to see what you get. Probably a better option than EX Fireball in my opinion, but it does not have a great forward hitbox on the way in. You definitely can get stuffed, as I mentioned with the other versions, with this as well. Don't think that just because you're using an EX, you're getting priority or anything like that. You absolutely can get stuffed by jabs. I've tested it. So be aware of that. And lastly, we have the EX Tatsu, which you can get a DP off of, which is what I was trying to do before. So that's something to be aware of there as well. Now, with this one, it's really best used in combos. You can kind of throw it out in neutral off a crouching medium kick if you're looking to catch them off guard. Be aware that it is not anywhere in the realm of safe in 2 regards. First one is that normally it's -7, but if they happen to be crouching when you do the input, when you do this, it can also whiff on the last hit, so taking it from -7 to being -20. So it is a very risky proposition to throw out haphazardly, but it's almost offset by its potential damage reward. Just because, yeah, for 1 bar, if you're playing neutral for 1 bar, you can get 250 damage off clipping them low. Which, yeah, like I said, for that kind of damage, it's almost worth doing it sometimes. So use that at your own discretion. All right, that's it. That's the guy. That's the primer. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Is there anything I've missed that you want me to cover? Any questions that you have you'd like to ask, feel free to go ahead in the comments below. If you enjoyed, please remember to subscribe because I do post a lot of content as well as Akira matches coming up over the next few days and possibly longer than that. Play a lot of jury here as well, so all that good stuff if you stick around. Otherwise, kisses, hugs, belly rubs. I will see all of you very soon.
outside.